Good afternoon, everyone. Eugene Skep is here, Business Development Manager for SuperMate. A warm welcome to our May webinar. Looking forward to sharing with you some really exciting stuff that has been delivered, particularly around data feeds, which we're going to take you through. It's just myself and Rhys, our Manager of Product Design today. But we've got some really exciting things. Just as usual, if you have any questions or anything like that, as you heard in the little video beforehand, please drop them into the Q&A. We're really excited to have your questions, and we will try and answer as many as we can on screen. If you have been to our session previously, you'll know that we do sometimes include some polls. We have 2 polls usually, and today is no different. We're going to be asking a couple of questions. We just do invite you to be part of that and to give us your responses. It's always pretty fun and quite informative as well. So yeah, as I mentioned, it's myself and Rhys today. Rhys, I was thinking we should become like podcast bros. We should get our own studio, get some really expensive podcasting equipment, and get ourselves set up. What do you think of that?
Yeah, we could get some comfy chairs to sit back in. some of those podcast mics. Sounds like
cocktails, fun. Something like that. Be good. Anyway, back to reality, as they say. So just a quick look through our agenda today. Rhys is going to take you through in more detail through this agenda, but our main discussion point today is around data feeds, and it's something that as a business development manager for SuperMate, I hear about all the time. Is what sort of data feeds do we have? How do they work? And it's something that we are constantly investing into the platform. Let me kick over to our illustrious product designer, Rhys, to take us through today's agenda. Rhys, over to you.
Thanks, Eugene. I'm just going to share my screen now for me. Okay, I should be sharing my screen. Thanks, Eugene. It's been another big month for us. We've delivered 9 releases over and over 170 enhancements. But today, I did want to focus on something that has a real immediate impact from your day-to-day work, and that's data feeds. The reason we're focusing here on is that we've just released the enhanced data feeds platform, which includes broker and wrap integrations. So I'll take you through a quick refresher on why data feeds matter, how to set them up, and finally, what's coming next. Let's get into it. So why data feeds? Now, most of you probably should be quite familiar with data feeds by now, but it's really a good idea to reinforce that the more data feeds you have set up, the more transactions are automated, the fewer manual errors, the more time that your team gets to spend reviewing and advising and instead of data entry. But the real value goes beyond efficiency. It's all about timeliness and control. And what I mean by that is that when your data is up to date, it's quite easy to be ready for key events like pension commencement, meeting that compliance obligation of lodging TBAR reporting quarterly, and also responding to SuperStream messages on time. So it improves your client experience. It also helps out when questions come up of how much more can I contribute, or how much more pension payments can I take out? And if they don't have client view, you can easily, you should be able to help them navigate that answer by, you'll be able to see where there are deposits and withdrawals. I should also point out that there's one area that's becoming more increasingly important, and that's audit. So you can see down at the bottom of the screen, I've got our certification. The far left one is the SOC 2 Type 2, and that is where we've had our system audited from a data feed perspective to make sure that our data feeds can't be tampered with. What is said as data fed can be relied upon, that there has been no manual intervention from users. And where I've seen that come more into play is that you can see that transactions come from a verified source. We have registry balance reports. I'll open up the reports in a second. And the conversation that I've noticed happening is that audits where those data feeds are set up do go through quicker because the auditor can rely on the reports, or if they got API access, they can grab the data to ensure that all this information was data fed, and they don't need to heavily rely on manual evidence. So looking at holding statements, looking at bank statements, etc. If it's all data fed, the audit's quicker because they can rely on the data. And so I'll just quickly pull up some reports. We've got the bank reconciliation report. You can see here where there's an asterisk, that's indicating that they're manual transactions. This one's obviously not data fed because every single one of my transaction is manual. And also if it's data fed, you will get here's a closing balance and here's the balance from the data feed provider, and it indicates which bank account it is. We got the registry reconciliation report, which can be used to confirm. You can see here on this portfolio, on this HIN, we have balances confirmed from MUFG and Computershare. The investment comparison report can be used to confirm that the income process does match the data fed corporate actions. A way to identify where, say, a corporate action has been modified in the library, or it's a system generated one, is if there's a little symbol here. You can see here on the ANZ one, you might notice normally they're fully franked. This one has no franking credits. It's got a little 2. And if I scroll to the end, it's because the corporate action was unsynchronized at the site's library, and therefore that data can no longer be relied upon. And also market values. So market values, the asterisks will indicate which market value is not provided by data feed. All these don't have asterisks, therefore they're all data fed market values, and they can be relied upon. Data feed types, so when I talk about data feeds, it's not just cash, platform, broker, registry, which I will focus on as part of this webinar. However, data feeds also include price, corporate actions, actuarial certificates, electronic audits, and SuperStream. So, SuperStream contributions get processed automatically. You do get SuperStream rollover data being fed into the system too. A question that does come up is providers that we support. Now, SuperMate is very proactive here. If a bank account exists, you'll see prompts to put data to put the details in, and then we can tell you within SuperMate whether that data feed is available, or that bank account is available to be data fed, similar to broker platforms. However, if you do want to see a list or provide a list to another party, if you go to the SuperMate's website, to the ecosystem page, we do have a very large list, over 260 data feeds that are available. So you can see all the cash items, brokers. We have a list of all the different brokers. If you have a broker where you do receive contract notes for, please, and it's not on this list, please provide us feedback to say, I'm receiving these contract notes from this broker, it's not available, and we can add it. So basically the rule with brokers, if a broker distributes a contract note, we can automate that as a data feed. And then the wrap and platform feed list. It's very important with this list. We do have a concept of badged platforms and then available platforms. And with badged platforms, we use Macquarie as an example. Some of these platform providers, they will use Macquarie as their reporting system. So you could set up a Macquarie platform feed to receive information, for example, from Dominion. And once again, in SuperMate, we automate that process. So, you know, to help you with that decision, you can say, okay, I'm setting up a platform for this product, and then we can map it back to Macquarie if it's one of the badged services. Okay, setting up data feeds. I'm going to navigate to SuperMate in a second, but I'll take us through setting up data feeds, a bank, broker, and platform data feeds. Just how to do it on a fund level. Okay, go to SuperMate. Open up a fund. Okay, so when I open up a fund in SuperMate, you can see here that on the bottom left, you do have a data feeds card, which provides you information about data feeds that could be set up or have been established that it knows about. So for this fund, SuperMate knows about 2 bank accounts. That's about all. I can, from this screen, select add bank account details. It will navigate me to the data feeds maintenance screen where I can enter in the BSB number. So let's see if I can remember this off the top of my head. Oop. Right, CBA bank account. I can put the account number in, select save, and it will, if that data feed is supported, it will prompt me to set up that data feed. You can see here, you do get prompted to enter a start date for the data feed. It's very important to note that for cache feeds, it depends on the provider. So not all providers will supply historical data. This one, for example, CBA, even if I put in 1st of July 25, it won't provide data from 1st of July. The data will come through once the signed form's returned and CBA's process that the data feed. So which could take up to 10 to 15 business days from when the form's sent to our email address to process that form. So for example, if you send a form back today, CBA's cache feed may not get active till later this month. If I select the authority form, I will get the form that I need to generate for signing from the client. The other way you can do it is, rather than going from the fund screen, if I go integrations, go data feeds maintenance, I can navigate straight here. I can add the bank details. The third way to do it is just directly from the bank account screen. And we try and be more proactive and drive data feed setup while you're doing your day-to-day processing. So if I open up this account, I can see this one is the CBA bank account. I've got the setup data feed. I can then select the authority form and receive the form. Alternatively, if I add an existing bank account, as I'm adding that bank account, I will also get prompted to set up a data feed. The other one, the other data feed bank account I should really talk about is the Macquarie one, where it is a bank feed where if you set the start date as 1st of July 25, when that Macquarie bank account feed commences, you can get data back from how far back you would like. So if you do put the start date as 1st of July 25, you will get that data from 1st of July 25 from Macquarie. So if I add this one, 200, Macquarie CMA. I do get prompted for the date. I can put in the past. You also could select the financial services company. So this is something that's quite new, where you could, if you don't have a advisor account with them, you can use the Super Concepts one. If otherwise, if you have one set up for yourself, you can use yours. Select the level of authority, whether it's view or general withdrawal. The difference here is that general withdrawal can be set if you want to facilitate payments on behalf of the Macquarie account. So obviously, we can't, as software providers, do the payments, but when it gets added to your account, you'll be able to do the payments. You can also do it as view. Also, if you engage a third party, for example, an advisor, you can set them up in your system and generate the authority forms on their behalf. To set up a financial service company in that screen, you do go to integrations, providers. Oh, sorry, not providers, provider configuration, and select add authority. And this is where you can go, okay, well, I'm setting up a provider for Macquarie Cash. I can choose an advisor that is set up in the system. Otherwise, I can just enter in, sorry. Last name. You can put in the company name, so Super Concepts, company code, representative code, set as default. So every time you go to generate a authority form for a Macquarie account, this record will be the one that does get does show up by default. So that's how you can add authority. You might notice that we also have different institutes, so Macquarie Wrap, Hub24, BT Panorama. So you can set them up, and I'll get into why that's important later on. Now that the provider configuration has been set up, the next step is to add the Macquarie ESI. So go to integrations, authentication. We now have two tabs, one for Macquarie Cash and one for Macquarie Wrap. To add an ESI, just select ESI. You can add nickname to indicate the relationship holder. Enter in the ESI code and password that you get from the Macquarie website. Select save. When added, it'll appear as so, and then overnight, when the system refreshes, you'll get an update on the ESI status. So you can see the one I added yesterday is invalid. If you enter a real one, it will become active and then show the expiry date. Obviously, this is a demo site, so I haven't put real ESIs in. That's basically setting up cache feeds, once you have set them up, the status will produce the authority form. The status will change to waiting. So you'll see a waiting one, and that basically means you've sent that out for signing and you're waiting for it to return from the trustee. This one I generated this morning, so there is no numbers, but as time goes on, the numbers that it has been waiting for the client to return will appear, and it'll add as a prompt to go, okay, well, I've been waiting for this form to be returned for 60 days. I should follow up that client. The next item I want to go through is the broker feeds. So setting up broker feeds, that process does start from, if you go to assets, investor references. From the investor reference screen, you can put in the hint that would be associated with the broker feed. The certain details, so the registered name, postcode, then select the broker. Once again, if it doesn't exist in the list, let us know, and we can add that broker to our system. So when I select save, it is going to create. It's going to create the hit. It's going to create the institution, add it as an Omni Broker Direct data feed, and I can select set up data feed, select the instructions to get generated. Open this one will open up. The set of instructions do get provided to the client, who can either enact the instructions or provide the instructions to their stockbroker if they have one. And basically, how the system works is we receive contract notes whenever they do a trade, and then we process the transactions, and it gets the email address gets set up as a secondary email address. So if the clients like myself receives the contract notes by email, our email address gets set up as a secondary email address, so they can still receive their contract notes by email. We just receive another copy for processing. And you can see here, now that I've created those instructions, the data feed goes back to waiting, but it gets updated to waiting. You can select waiting if you need to regenerate the instructions. Once you have set this up and transactions come through, it will automatically attach the investor reference to the trade. So any buys or sells will get the investor reference automatically allocated to it. So it is important to go to the allocate investor reference screen, go through the process of attaching that investor reference to the relevant holdings. I'm going to allocate it to all the investor reference to all the holdings. You can see the allocate date has defaulted to the earliest buy date, but say if these assets transferred onto the HIN, you can update the investor reference to be allocated to all those shares on a date, so 1st July 25. And that's really important, as mentioned, for the data feed to be processing those data feeds to the same account, or to the same investor reference. It helps with corporate actions. So you have certain corporate actions attached. Corporate actions are investor reference aware. So say if you have two investor references for for a couple of BHP holdings, you do get 2 corporate action revenue transactions that can match off to 2 different cash accounts. But also for our registry feed, having that hit in there will confirm holding balances at the end of the year. If I navigate to the early retirement portfolio, you can see that on the portfolio overview, I do have the Self-Wealth Limited broker says it's okay, which means that we have started receiving contract notes. We've been processing transactions. The last one we received was on the 14th of April, and all those holdings have been confirmed. So if I go to the transaction screen, type in purchase, you can see that I have manually processed a bunch of these transactions. However, as I go down, there is a heap that you can see I would have set this up after the 5th of December. So from the 19th of December onwards, those contract notes have flowed through. They're all data fed. The contract note is attached to the transaction. I can go to my documents section or the interactive reports, and I can see those contract notes. I can easily export those contract notes out to provide it to an auditor, or if the auditor has auditor view, they'll be able to log in and see those contract notes. You can see a bunch of these transactions are unreconciled, as in they're not reconciled to a cash transaction, and that's because I don't have a cash transaction load for this fund. If I go to assets and I go to the overview, I can see all my holdings have been confirmed. Also in the holding reconciliation, I can see all these holdings are confirmed. If I select details, I can see the holdings were confirmed at the start of the year, 30th of June 25. There's been transactions, and it's also reconciled up until 30th of April. Now, if there was a moment where it wasn't reconciled, you would have another entry to say, for example, here at 31st of October, the reconciliation record details here would be a certain number, and then the confirmed balance would be different, and you'd have a amount in the difference column. So that's broker feeds. Once again, quite simple to set up. The other one, which I don't have in this screenshot, is platform wraps. Going back to SuperMate, if you do have any platforms set up, you will see them here, or the integrations, data feeds, maintenance screen. You can see here I've got a bunch of platform data feeds here. I believe this one's set as not supported because it is a simple platform, and I'll get into that a bit further. But for this fund, there's been a Hub24 net wealth one that's been platforms that have been set up. So I can select the setup platform data feed, produce the instructions or the authority form, and provide that to the client. What I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate back to the Future Super Fund, and I'm going to take you through the process of setting up a platform data feed from when one first exists. So if I was processing, I can set up a platform data feed from transactions. So say if I have withdrawal, I can say this relates to a platform. I get the option to set up the platform. You also have the option from the investor reference screen. So from the investor reference screen, similar to how I set up that broker investor reference, I can say this one is a platform reference. I can search the product. If it doesn't exist, I can just type it in manually. So you don't need to select an existing platform. You can you can just type freeform. However, if you want data fed, you always set up a data feed for a platform that we support, you will need to select the relevant one. So I am going to go NetWealth. The next section is really important. It is the platform method processing. So platform processing method. And as I mentioned before, the Macquarie one was not supported because it was set up as a simple platform. The ones that we do support is tax parcel and detailed. And for the people who are not aware of the different platform processing models that we support in SuperMate, tax parcel method is where the assets are just bought and sold as if they are shares, unit trusts, unlisted unit trusts. And you can link them together with an investor reference. Detailed is where the platform is set up as a single general ledger account item, and you can see the underlying assets underneath it. And there's a fairly big difference on how the processing happens and what gets reported. Deciding whether you want to set up as tax parcel detailed, part of it is that part of it relates to reporting. So if your preference is to have a single general ledger item that sits on reports and on the financials, you say here's a platform and you have the sub assets underneath. That's your preference. Certain processing methods are slightly different, but the main reason to choose between tax parcels or detailed is whether you want to rely on the end of financial year reports from a capital gains perspective. For tax parcel method, since you are setting them up as individual assets, when a buy happens, we record the cost base associated with that tax packet. When a sale occurs, we can calculate capital gains on those assets. From a detailed one, it's been set up in a way where we don't necessarily track the tax parcel's cost basis, which enables you to put in the capital gains that the platform providers are supplying in their report. So on the end of year accounts, on the annual tax statement, where they have a section for the capital gains relating to purchase and sales within the wrap, you can simply transfer those figures to the platform processing method. So a lot of the choice between tax parcel and detailed comes down to whether you want to rely on the platform provider calculating the capital gains. Investor reference, so that's the account name or account number on the platform accounts. Account name, this is what I want to name the investor reference or platform. If I was to do it as a detailed platform, you can also add bank accounts or create new bank accounts or link existing ones and name that platform cash account. So that's create one. It's tax parcel. I'm at that section where I can set up the data feed. I just want to reiterate that it is very important when you do set that up to make sure you have selected the correct platform processing method that you do desire, because as soon as a platform investor reference has a transaction or a holdings linked to it, you'll no longer be able to come in here and change the platform processing method. Setting up the data feeds, select advisor instructions, you'll be navigated to our help system where you can, where it has instructions on how to advise or inform the advisor on how to set up those data feeds. That's basically setting up data feeds on a fund level. The next section to talk through is monitoring and managing data feeds. So this is a screenshot from a live site. This is the data feeds overview. You can see we have some tiles which give some high level data of how many active data feeds exist, how many transactions were loaded today due to data feeds, and that includes cash, broker, platform data feeds. Automation percentage, obviously the goal is to get that as high as possible. To be realistically, you'll never get it to 100%, because it does. There are certain manual transactions where you can't set up transaction rules for, or there's no data feeds coming through or corporate actions, transactions being created by the end of the year. We have a card which highlights data feeds that requires attention. This one's quite good where the unbalanced bank accounts are zero, but they do have a lot of dormant data feeds and authorities that have been rejected by the provider. So it's a call to action to go look at these data feeds that have been set up. Something appears wrong. Unbalanced bank accounts, that can occur where, say if I set up a data feed today for a cash account and it's one of the cash account feeds where the transactions get provided from the date the form's signed. You'll have the balance coming through, the transactions coming through from May, but say if you haven't processed those transactions prior, you'll have an unbalanced bank account because the general ledger account won't match the balances provided in that data feed. Other times is where there could be a data feed error, though we do monitor that on our end, and we can pick up when data feeds have dropped out. Dormant ones, they come about where a transaction has not been received in the last 60 days. So for example, you should have had the 30th of April interest at a minimum. So even if a bank account is only loading interest transactions, you should have received one 7 days ago. If you haven't received one since about the 7th of March, we bring that to attention because it's something where, like as I mentioned, typically there should at least be end of month interest or other transactions processing on bank accounts. Similar with platform feeds. And then authorities rejected by the provider, that'll be where forms have been sent to the provider and the provider has said, oh, we can't activate this data feed for this reason. The automation breakdown, this one's quite handy where you can see where that there might be an opportunity to increase your automation. So we can always highlight bank accounts, brokers, platform accounts where they're not set up yet, or there might be an issue with the feeds. But this one also identifies, hey, you're processing a lot of transactions manually. You're not utilizing transaction rules. Maybe someone's processing corporate actions manually, processing depreciation manually. Goal is to get that get the 20% as low as possible. If I was consulting on this site, I would, yes, 20% is okay. You could probably get that. You can get the number a fair bit lower. Then the opportunities one, so this is where we can identify bank accounts where the feeds, so there's assets or accounts where they have been set up where the feed has not become active yet. So looking at this one, there's quite a number of bank accounts, broker investor references, and platforms where it's not that there's no feed associated with it. And this number does also exclude ones where we know it's not supported. So say if it was a platform feed, so that Macquarie platform feed where they set up for a simple platform, that record won't show in this list because we know that we can't support it for simple platforms. Diving in, requiring attention. This is a few examples where CBA rejected a form because the signature didn't match the profile, the account number was invalid, or an account was closed. So it just provides the reason why the provider rejected those forms. And then here are some bank accounts that were dormant. So you know, these ones haven't received a bank account for over 365 days. So something could be wrong here. It could be just the case that the bank account has been closed. But the bank account's been closed, but the SIS hasn't been made aware that the bank account is closed. Navigating back to SuperMate, the screen is accessed under integrations overview. You can see here I don't have any data feeds that require attention. I only have 2 that are active, and my automation percent is quite awful. It's 67%. I don't have any bank feeds. That's something I should focus on. I don't really have any broker or platform feeds. So yeah, I have a lot of opportunities to reduce. And when it comes to opportunities, I can select that chevron, can take it to the screen. I can switch between ones where the bank account details have been entered, but I've sent the form out for signing, so I can select set up data feed, produce the authority form, or I can go through and add the bank accounts. So the good thing about it being a site level is if you're going to do a project where you say, I want all these bank accounts, I want forms sent out for them. You can go to this high level screen, identify a super fund that is missing bank account details are not set up, and you can go through the process of setting up that data feed. Also have the requires attention and the recently activated. So the recently activated one is so you can jump in and go kind of look at it, go, well, that bank account no longer appears on not yet set up. Oh yeah, it's been recently activated. Similar with broker, you can see not set up, or you can see recently activated ones, and platforms. So you can see the require attention, not yet set up. So I can see ones where they exist. I haven't set them up. I don't have the details in there yet. Ones where the forms have been sent, but I'm still waiting for them to be returned. Recently activated or all, so you can, for platforms, you can view them all at once. Okay. back to the slides. What is next? So next I showed you in the providers where you can select Hub24 or BT Panorama as in the provider configuration section. What's next is where we have some enhancements coming where when you do generate the Hub24 or BT Panorama forms, you'll be able to select the advisor. We've got the interactive brokers platform coming. Pretty good. It's currently in pilot. Open banking, we aim to have open banking available this year. And one of the benefits of open banking will be it's not a form, so it's a different activation process, and you can also get historical data. So when you're setting it up for open banking, you can say, okay, well, provide me the data from 1st of July. And also fixed securities, we've started working with fixed securities to get a data feed for that platform. So just to wrap up, data feeds, I went through the benefits of them, how to set them up, how to do the ongoing management and maintenance of it. I've got a couple of items that we're working on next. The more data feeds that you do implement means the system works better for you. Thanks everyone for your time, and I'll throw it back to Eugene.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rhys. Just switching things over here. You guys, you can see my screen with the agenda on.
Yeah.
If you want to add any of those, I'll just remind you that we have our SuperMate help portal. This is a great place to find out SuperMate's capabilities, and find out any features or things that you're not sure about. You can find the answers quickly. You can do that by just clicking on that little question arrow at the top of your screen, and then clicking Help Portal, and that'll take you directly to the Help Portal. And it's really handy. It's the way I've kind of learned my way around SuperMate, so it's been pretty good. Also, just a reminder, if you are not yet a SuperMate web client, you're missing out on all this amazing goodness. Only $11 per month, $130 per year gets you access to all of these amazing features. Also, just a reminder as well that we do have on-demand learning where you can earn CPD points and accreditation. It's a really, really fantastic service that we offer, 30 on-demand modules, and that is available for us too. So if you have any questions about that, just reach out to us. Okay, and that brings us to our Q&A section. Let me take a look at our Q&A and see if we have any questions. I guess the first question, Rhys, comes to us from, I think it's Caroline. Why doesn't the Hub24 international cash account feed via the platform data feed?
Okay. Hub24, I suggest sending a support ticket in because it should load the international cash transactions. We have built the system. It doesn't matter if it's tax parcel or detailed, the international cash should be loading. So send through a ticket to support, and we can look into that case for you.
Thanks, Carol. And thank you, Rhys. How long does it typically take from submitting an authority form to the data feed going live?
Yep. So it typically takes, well, what we found is 10 to 15 business days from when we receive a form, and then we on-forward it on for the receiving party to process that form, and then action and data to start coming through. And just to reiterate, depending on the feed type, you can get information retrospectively, historical data on some items, but not for all. So some of those cash feeds and those broker feeds, the data will be from when that form gets processed.
Cool. And then just a last question from Betsy. Will open banking change the data feed process at all, or is SuperMate already set up for this? It's a good question, Betsy. Thank you.
Yeah, it will change the process at all. So with open banking, the way that it's being set up is it won't be form based, so there won't be a form that gets generated, sent to get signed. It'll be driven through the client receiving a link. They select the links and they activate it electronically rather than using a form. The other I think significant difference with open banking is that when they go through the process of so you send them the open banking link for one bank account, and they're going through the process. Say if that super fund has multiple bank accounts, they can choose to provide data for all 5 bank accounts, and then SuperMate will receive the data for all 5, rather than having to activate one bank account at a time.
Cool. Betsy's got a follow-up question to that. Do we have a time frame for when this will be in place?
Yeah, we are in the final stages of having open banking ready for one provider. And we're just working through a pilot. I don't want to get everyone too excited to say when, like, it'll be soon, but it'll definitely be this year, open banking.
Cool. All right. Now, there's a couple of other questions. I'm not sure if these were submitted by people from our panel. They've come through a different channel. So how are corporate actions handled for platform feeds?
Yeah, it's a good question. So obviously, with platform data feeds, that it's a holistic feed. It provides the cash side, the trades, and revenue. So ideally, you don't want corporate actions running on platform data feeds. Otherwise, you'll get a double up of revenue, or if there's certain corporate actions, platform providers actually provide those transactions for us, so we don't have to rely on corporate actions. And the system automatically excludes assets from corporate actions if it relates to a platform feed. So in the process I was showing you, where I set up the platform data feed, the investor reference for the platform data feed, when you go through and you allocate that platform reference to existing holdings, or when buys occur and holdings have that platform, those platform assets won't have corporate actions. If that answers the question.
Yeah, okay, cool. And then just the last question, Rhys. If I'm currently doing everything manually, what's the first data feed that I should set up? That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I always like to start with cash. So in a way, replicate the way that I would process a fund realistically, where I'd start with cash, then move on to the other transactions. So I would work on setting up cash feeds, going through that process. If they have a broker, set up the broker. Obviously, if they have a platform, that does encompass the cash and the broker itself. So yeah, cash broker platform is the order I do it.
Okay, awesome. Well, that neatly brings us up to the end of our session today. I want to thank you all for taking the time to join. Again, good luck with all of your tax lodgements. It's pretty soon, 10 days away. And Rhys, thanks for the webinar again. Always great to get your take on things and see what's new in SuperMate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And Han, thanks for twiddling all the buttons in the back and making things work for us. And we'll see you next month with the next update. Thank you very much for joining, everyone. Bye-bye.